the wonderful world of Weaver. I'm your sub-host, 40 Grit.
And I am your original host,
Jitsu Weaver.
Welcome to a new segment. We're going to be following the roleplay adventures of our characters in our game group, who I like to call 40 Grit's Tabletop.
Oona.
Welcome to the city of Rome, population over 1 million. This city lies in the plains of western Kansas, in the general location of Dodge City and its surrounding area. The city is a bustling metropolitan with many districts and demographics that stretch from the swanky uptown all the way to the low-rent suburbs. The city is designed in the world of the Dresden Files RPG game system with a few modifications. First off is the level of technology in the game system is on a more advanced timetable than the real world. Technology is advanced by 50 years. Instead of cell phone towers and Wi-Fi based techs, the world runs off an almost complete satellite-powered and supported communication system. For this reason, the satellites in the world are some of the most advanced and secure tech. Along with satellite tech, the players have access to digital contact lens function at the same principles as the HoloLens from Google and Tony Stark's holographic workstation. These lenses can be used in simple fashion, much like smartphones, or they can be modified and custom built to do simply amazing things that the players can dream. The drawback is that the holograms can only be seen by a single viewer unless they are linked through the IP sharing data to build the information of the hologram. The last bit of technology is embedded communication devices. This can take the form of a gem in the ear or even a non-invasive form of a wristwatch and or pendant. There is a small group of wizards who believe that there may be a way to combine some forms of technology with the occult in ways that previously could never have been imagined before. Aside from the technological aspect, the rest of the city of the world is built to be as realistic as possible, though there are a few oddities to the city itself. For one, the city is round. If viewed from the air, the entire city of Rome is in the shape of a circle, with the tallest building almost dead center, the Mercantile Hotel. The city stretches outwards in an almost archaic style. The further from the hotel, the less opulent the area. Though outside of the outer ring of slums lies the sleepy and apparently safe suburbs, slowly giving way to the more rural farmlands away from the city proper. Through years of cutthroat political action, the city of Rome has absorbed any smaller cities until almost an entire 50-mile radius is all under the sanctions and identity of the great city of Rome. As a metropolitan environment, almost anything can be found within city limits, though Rome is not without its drama, as there are 6 gang/crime families that have divided this city into territories that, even though they are not seen on a map, they are very real to those that live in this city. Each gang is the embodiment of stereotypes and is a manifesting of the division of the identity that has been taking root in the past decade of the city's history. The gangs are as follow, but in no particular order. The Wave, a group of cyber hackers that are using tech to try and establish a grip on the criminal empire available within the city boundary. The Dragons, an expanded chapter of the Yakuza. The Selected, a group of religious fanatics that are not trying to take over the crime in the city, but feel they either have to convert the souls of the city or sacrifice the impure by any means necessary to save the city of Rome from destruction of a darker evil that resides in the heart of the everyday person. The Riders, a tough and organized biker gang whose territories stretch along the highways and byways of the city of Rome. Though they appear to be peaceful, they have in the past fought with other gangs and even local law enforcement to achieve their goals. No matter who they are or where they live, members of the Riders hide in plain sight amongst all of the gang territory, and usually can only be identified when they pull out their bikes and put on their leather jackets, stitched with a patch of a reaper riding a chopper through a wall of flame. The 88 Roller, streetwise hood gang that is breaking the stereotypes associated with urban gang mythology. Though they work the streets of lower income residential areas and encompass both African Americans and Latino Americans in their ranks, the head of the 88 Rollers is infamous on the streets of Rome as being the one man who is able to combine the warring factions of street gangs into one cohesive organization, and for that reason many of the criminal underworld fear him and what he may do next. Last but never least is the Diganji family, a tough-as-nails, old-school Italian mafia family that was forced out of New York years ago and instead set up shop in a quiet, bustling Midwestern town, becoming part of its history. The Diganji are as old as the Mercantiles, and their weight is not just in criminal actions, but in connections and legitimate business interests in the city as well. A little more information about the city of Rome is as follows. There are many schools and even a community college, but no actual academic universities inside city limits. There is, however, a top-notch medical hospital, as well as several other ER stations and more common hospitals around the entire city and surrounding area. The city is also complete with music hall, opera, and playhouse. Much like other major cities, there is a large park found in the lower west side that is considered neutral territories by the gangs and has been used in the past as a meeting place to discuss grievances before the call for bloodshed. The city also has a monorail, city buses, and a healthy supply of cabs. Another aspect of the world is a comprehensive welfare system that has been put into place to help players who are unemployed. If the player has a resource of 0, they will have access to an EBT card, a government-issued satellite phone, and a small amount of cash. On the other side of the coin is the fight ring, a digital underground battleground that uses the communication system as a way of locating and challenging those who are enrolled into the group. Think of Grindr, but for fighting. And if you don't know what Grindr is, just Google it. For the most part of the city of Rome should be an ever-expanding idea that the players will help build by need and or want. Now that the city has been covered, let's move on to some game terms that may pop up during the play that most people may not know or recognize. First concept is fate points. These are points that the player can spend to either re-roll a failed roll, add +1 to a roll, or activate and or ignore an aspect. The player gains fate points by playing a character in accordance with the nature of the character, which is outlined by their aspect. However, aspects are simple phrases that describe core concepts about the player's character, such as sloth drives me to rage. This aspect implies the character has a temper when dealing with messy or disorganized people. If a player acts this out or is compelled to act it out by the GM, they do not fight it off by spending a fate point, then they will gain a fate point. If they spend a fate point in accordance to this aspect, then the player can add +2 to the roll.
I'm sorry, everybody. I suck at reading out loud. So please bear with me. I'll be playing the character of Kane Tellman. Kane grew up as the smartest kid in his class. This led to a lot of fights because he always made everybody feel inferior. At a young age, he decided it was a good idea to learn how to fight. Being the intelligent person he was, he began studying martial arts and parkour on FaceClip, this world's version of YouTube, taking what he learned and putting it into practical effect. His father was not happy about his son's intelligence. He was an angry person in general, so his own son being smarter than him was not good for their relationship. His abusive behavior was directed towards Kane's mother. Kane never was aware of the physical abuse, only the verbal and mental side. He always told his mom that they should leave him because of it. Throughout his schooling, after he began training in martial arts, other kids who picked on him soon realized he could hold his own when pushed to violence. His best friend throughout school was Daniel King, who had a running joke of calling himself Donkey Kong because of his love of video games. Not only did Kane protect himself, but DK as well. As Kane grew, he saw his mother start to get fed up with his father's constant bullshit. And when he was 9, she finally divorced his sorry ass and they moved away but stayed in the school district. At the age of 10, he became infatuated with a new transfer student named Anastasia Dove, who entered his life like a lightning strike. They quickly became friends and spent most of their time together. Kane graduated at the age of 14 from high school and had a full scholarship to MIT. This forced him to leave his home and friends, even though he would use every chance he got to go home to be with them. For the next 3 years, it took Kane to get his master's. He studied, traveled home on holidays and summer vacation. Whenever they could, DK and Anastasia would come and visit him up at MIT during the school breaks they had. Before graduating at MIT, Kane invented a device that could be used in the manufacturing process in production plants around the world. Upon graduating at age 17, he moved back to the city of Rome and purchased a ground floor condo on the edge of downtown after he began receiving royalty checks for his invention. After graduating from high school, Anastasia received a full scholarship to Yale. She decided to major in medicine and become a doctor, temporarily moving to the East Coast. DK, however, after graduating, jumped from job to job, never fully finding his niche in life, until about the age of 23, where he decided to open his own comic book shop, which was only possible by Kane being his silent partner and co-signing on the loan for the store. Part of the deal was DK had to go back to school for his associates in business. In return, Kane would help his friend start up the store, and aptly naming it the Dragon's Den. At the community college, DK fell in love with Daniela Coleman in his class. Now at 25, Kane lives on his own. DK and his girlfriend are engaged. Anastasia is away at Yale for another year, and the four of them are talking about doing a double wedding ceremony. Kane's mother is still living on her own, but dating a new man who Kane approves of, and Kane helps her whenever and wherever he can. And that is a little background on my character, Kane Tellman.
Hi, I am Samantha and I will be playing the character Angelica McIntyre. My character is 22 and the daughter of the wealthiest and most powerful man in the city of Rome. I was born while my parents were building their hotel empire, and my mother was killed in childbirth. My father loved me dearly, but was busy managing his empire, and I was raised by my British nanny Clara, my father's manservant Jones, and my driver John Casey, who has been escorting me my entire life. Throughout my childhood, I was very catered to and was given whatever I wanted, though my nanny wouldn't let me get away with whatever I wanted. You have heard of kids being raised on a silver platter? Well, mine was gold. Literally. As I grew older, their constant hovering bored me after the first few years. I taught myself to sneak out and back in again, though my sneaking started small, with extra cookies and makeup from Clara's purse. When I turned 7, I did get one of the best gifts ever. My father gave me my robotic puppy, Pebble. I named him Pebble because of the 5-carat flawless diamond that hangs around his neck. Trying to keep me out of trouble, I was placed in as many extra activities to keep me busy and occupied. Everything from gymnastics to fencing, and I have been trained by many teachers from all over the world. By the time I became a teenager, Clara left feeling that her job was at least somewhat accomplished, and Daddy had to reinstall the security system over a dozen times. Oops. Bored with the routine of my life, I upped the ante by sneaking out and finding adventure on the back alley streets of whatever city I was in for the night. School in all-female boarding schools left me hungry for attention of the opposite sex, though they had to be worth the trouble of the chase. Often finding trouble because of whatever pretty face and hot body I was chasing for the night, I quickly learned a girl needs to have a way to defend herself, so I carried a steel-plated clutch and several rounds for my taser, as well as mace. After school, instead of going to college, I felt the need to spread my wings and see more of the world. With Casey constantly shadowing me, I spent my days hobnobbing with wealthy elites of the city I stayed in, and my nights running the streets, either at parties or tempting the letter of the law. Now, after years of running the world and dodging higher education, my father, for whatever reason, has demanded that I return home to Rome, Kansas, where, and I quote, "stay within city limits or I forfeit all of your inheritance." Fantastic. So here I am in this hick town of a city. Granted, Daddy's empire started here, but have you seen this place? Ugh. I am basically left alone, as Daddy is always at work, and no one but Casey and Jones always within shouting distance. But hey, let's see what trouble I can kick up in this small town. Bye!
Hi, my name is Crystal, and I'll be playing Shay Davenport. However, that will all change. I was adopted as an infant from Canada by a wealthy couple from Pearland, Texas. Kicker is, though, found this out later in life. But here's the prequel. Southern Texas is my stomping ground. I had friends out the wazoo. Growing up near the beach is the best thing ever. The sandcastle building competitions was my thing. I won about 4 to 5 of them between the ages of 7 and 9, when the worst thing I thought could happen happened. My parents all of a sudden got separated. Between my mom being married to her work fashion designer life and my dad as an architect working from home, at the age of 10, I was trying to choose between my mother and my father, and oh my goodness, that is hard and stressful. I chose the one that seemed to be the one that actually paid attention to me, which was my dad. So off I went to my dad's homeland, the Florida Keys. Good thing it has a beach and I can build castles in the sand. So now I have to make all new friends at the age of 11. Fun! First day of middle school was really weird. I thought it would be really hard to make friends, but oddly enough, it wasn't. I had about 3 people actually ask me to hang out with them after school. Dad was so impressed, he told me he would take me out to pizza and ice cream for a year. Ice cream for a year. Best thing ever. Once I got into high school, more and more of the popular crowd started hanging out with me. I really noticed Dad was working hard at home, but he seemed more and more distant as the years went by. It was kind of weird. But he still gave me things and came to my school events like debate, dance, volleyball, and Stuco. On my 16th birthday, he got me a car. Can you believe it? And he even threw a big, huge, sweet 16 birthday party on the beach. Funny thing, some of the cops came to join the part of fun. Junior year, at the volleyball senior night game, some random person gave me a Letterman's jacket and walked me to my car because it was raining cats and dogs. But while he was helping me into my car, he touched my back for support, and I felt this weird connection. We were kind of inseparable from that day on. So senior year, I was going to get crowned as the homecoming queen with my boyfriend as the king, and I was captain of the volleyball team, dance, and debate. Had been named Stuco class president this year and was amazing. I found out towards the end of the year, though, that I was going to be named valedictorian. Super excited. I couldn't wait to get out of this place of a hole and go to Yale. Who can say it? They go to Yale. No one probably really. So prom was a hit, and I was really feeling my boyfriend. However, you know kids nowadays. We went back to my place and started hitting all the bases, but something was off this time. I was really feeling Jeremy like all of his soul. Then he passed out, and I was so confused to what just happened. I went to one of that I could trust the most, my dad. Now here's the bombshell. I found out then that I was adopted, and Dad actually didn't know who or what I was. All he knew was I was his little girl, and he was going to protect me no matter what. I became so obsessed with finding my true identity that I forgo my plans to go to Yale. Who passes up Yale? And travel around Canada, looking for clues to who my parents were and what I really am. That's when I was directed to the city of Rome, Kansas.
Hi, my name is John, and I'm playing the character Jack Hearn. I'll be joining the campaign in Session 2. Jack grew up an orphan and spent the majority of his childhood bouncing through the foster care system. He was never in one place long enough to make friends of any sort, and he never got in any real trouble. That's how the first 17 years of his life went. Boring whirlwind of new places and people. By then, what he wanted more than anything, stability, order, and maybe a touch of adventure. So, he joined the army, and there, he found his calling. In the army, Jack found the order he was craving and more. He learned discipline and honor. He made lasting friendships for the first time. He also discovered that he had a way with guns that bordered on the disturbing. In the second year of his first tour, Jack's squad came under heavy fire and were separated. In the chaos of that moment, Jack found clarity. Suddenly, he was not merely surviving, but thriving. In the end, his squad emerged victorious, but not without price. Two of Jack's friends were dead, and he knew loss for the first time. At the end of his first tour, Jack immediately re-enlisted, this time as a ranger. There, he excelled beyond all expectation, quickly mastering anything they had to teach him and completing every mission. In his third year as a ranger, things went wrong. On a dark mission, deep behind enemy lines, Jack discovered that almost all of his intel is wrong. He had been deceived by his commanding officer, sent on a mission he would never have agreed to, and then abandoned. Wounded and betrayed, Jack is taken in by a poor shepherd and his family. They tend his wounds and keep him safe as he recovers. When Jack asks the shepherd why he would save the life of his enemy, the man responds by asking how a man he had never even met could possibly be his enemy. Jack was dumbfounded. He realizes these are the sorts of people he should be protecting. Soon after that, Jack is well enough to travel. With nothing but a skin of water and an old hunting knife, he sets out into the mountains on a grim march, headed for friendly borders. Weeks later, Jack has finally returned to base. He's grim and worn. His faith has been betrayed, and his honor violated. Jack decides to tender his resignation, and does so by punching his treacherous commanding officer full in the face, breaking the man's nose, and knocking him out cold. Under normal circumstances, this would have resulted in a court-martial, but Jack knows too much, and instead, he's given an honorable discharge. As he tries to return to civilian life, Jack realizes that he has no skills suitable to life outside of combat. After a year on unemployment, Jack is only a few steps away from crazy. Relief comes in the form of a man in an expensive suit. He offers Jack a job for which he is uniquely suited. Freelance mercenary. Jack is dubious at first, but the man promises that every job will be honorable, all intel will be complete and accurate, and that Jack will get the final say in any job. The only catch was that he would never know who he was working for. He accepted. 3 years later, at the age of 28, Jack is a highly successful global mercenary. The man had been completely truthful, and Jack had left many places better than he found them. Now he's in Roane, Kansas, investigating the Diganji, and he's about to see something he can't quite explain.
Hi, my name is Brian, and I am playing a character known as Ariana Siren. So that there is no mistake, my character is gender bended. She is a young Japanese woman. She is unaware of who her parents are, or if they are even alive anymore. She was abandoned to an orphanage in a small country city on the outskirts of Okinawa. She was a small child, quiet and reserved. She was not too pretty, actually rather average, and she was overlooked for adoption for years. When she was 12, she was adopted by a stern and quiet man who said very little to her at the time of adoption. What she found out the very night she was adopted was that her world was forever changed. The man who adopted her was a world-class thief, and his choice of adopting Ariana was a form of apprenticeship system that had been passed down from master to student throughout the history of the Japanese criminal world. He spent the formidable part of her young life drilling and training her on the classic skills required for a young thief. So by the time she was 16, she had done nothing but trained and never left the safety of the headquarters of her master. Though they had a professional relationship, there was happy times when she succeeded at training, but when she failed to accomplish the tasks set forth by her master, he did not get angry. Instead, she was ignored and left to train skill until she was able to master the assignment. At 18, she was set out to complete her first solo mission outside the confines of the headquarters. She was tasked with stealing a precious dagger from a low-level leader of an outskirt clan of the Yakuza. She flawlessly passed the security system, disabled the guards, but at the last moment, as she was about to remove the dagger from the case, she realized that she had forgot to disable the pressure alarm, but it was too late. She escaped by the skin of her teeth. Her master took the dagger as punishment. However, after that one failure, she rarely makes mistakes, except for every now and then she does tend to trip up at the finish line. After several more years of treatment that border on abuse, Ariana slowly became enraged and began to formulate a plan for revenge. On the eve of her 23rd birthday, she enacted her plan. Her former master went out to complete a mission. She broke through all of his security systems, disabled and destroyed all of his tools and possessions. She left in the dead of night, the flames of her former home lighting her path as she clutched the dagger kept from her for so long to her breast. Now she is on the run, and not sure of what comes next. Her whole life being of order and control. For the first time that she can remember, nothing is present to hold her back.
Hi, my name is Kira and I am playing Stephanie Smith. I was born in Germany, the daughter of an army officer. I spent the majority of my childhood traveling from army base to army base. When I was 7, my father was stationed stateside and I started school in America, having already learned the basis of several languages from many places we had lived. For the most part of my childhood, in South Carolina, was typical of an army brat. My life stayed peaceful and steady until my father left the armed forces and took up a civilian job up in North Dakota when I turned 10. Even though I moved across country again, I felt that being in North Dakota was truly my home. I made friends on this side of the border and even in Canada, spending many weekends over the border or camping right between the two. Life was quiet throughout high school. I was just biding my time until I was able to enlist. But to my father's dismay, I joined the Marines under the officer program, first completing an associate's degree in 18 months, then off to the Marines. My first tour was quiet, and I saw action overseas in several hotspots, and I learned how to fight and stay alert in many different geographical locations. I earned the respect and admiration of the men under me and the officers above me, allowing me to quickly climb the ranks. I went from one command to another, making friends with people with whomever was around, and just as easy to leave when the time came. That is until I met Jack Smith, an enlisted Marine, but thankfully not part of my command chain, so I didn't have to worry about fraternization charges under the UCMJ. But I was still scared to become close to him, to trust him, and kept him at a distance for almost 3 years. Even though every day I saw him, he would give me a gift or a flower for me, or always have a compliment, but most important, he was there whenever I just needed to talk to someone. That is until a fateful night of drinks and romance left me with the decision to become a mother or to run from love. I chose to stay and we got married. I opted out of my contract and he finished his enlistment. Then we moved back to North Dakota, while we both transitioned life to civilian life and gave birth to our daughter Stacy. A few years passed and we became extremely close and happy together. When my husband received a job opportunity to make a lot of money in a government position, we took it and moved into our own little home in the suburbs of Rome, Kansas. Unable to just sit at home with nothing to do, and thanks to the help of Jack's mother and daycare, I created my own independent detective agency. Now, after several months and a few important cases, not only have I identified myself in the city, but I have created a network I can use for good to help solve problems that are too big for normal people to handle.
Thank you for taking the time to not only watch the introduction, but become interested in 40 Grit's tabletop adventures. I'd also like to take a second to thank Wonderful World of Weaver for allowing us to sub-host on their channel. Hope you enjoy the game,